So ang ating pong tagapagsalita ngayong araw ay isang Professor of Landscape Horticulture sa University of the Philippines, Los Baños. Isa rin po siyang horticulturist, planner, arborist at sa katunayan, siya po ang ika-siyam na Chancellor ng UPLB from 2015 to 2021. So for almost 30 years, isa po siyang dalubhasa at naguhubog ng mga kaalaman ng UPLB agriculture students. Isa din po siyang senior faculty member ng College of Agriculture at affiliate faculty naman po ng School of Environmental Science and Management na recognized bilang isa sa mga nagsimula ng landscape horticulture profession sa Pilipinas. So, nagtapos din po siya ng kanyang PhD sa Tokyo University of Agriculture noong 1998 at tinaguri ang kauna-unahang nakapagtapos ng PhD in Landscape Architecture. So, and dahil po doon, since 2010, siya po ang nag-lead at nag-handle na po ng edible landscaping team sa UPLB. Na alam naman po natin ay marami na pong naibahagi sa ating seminars, training and workshop and technology demonstration ng EL sa buong Pilipinas. Nagtapos din po ang ating eksperto ng Bachelor of Science in Agriculture. Ayan, so let me introduce to you, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Dr. Fernando Sanchez Jr. So napakaswerte po natin ngayong araw. Good morning, sir.
Unmute lang.
Sir, papa-unmute lang po kami ng mic po.
Okay, pasensya ka na. Bago balik ako sa pagtuturo, hindi ko pa alam itong technology. Pero sabi ko, thank you for your generous introduction.
Good morning po. Ready na po tayo for discussion, sir?
Yes, okay.
Okay po.
So, can I share my slides now? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes po.
Okay, sige. Okay. So, it's okay? Okay. So, magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. In behalf of the Edible Landscaping Team, isa pong Masagana, Malusog at Makulay na umaga po sa ating lahat. So for today po, I was tasked by the DA Bureau of Agricultural Research to discuss with you the tenets of what the edible landscaping technology that we are promoting since a long time ago. But because of DA BAR's support, we were continuing to promote this artistic technique of crop production. So let's move forward. So what is really edible landscaping? So technically, edible landscaping is a science and art. So it's an innovative and creative crop production technology wherein the science of crop production process on how to grow different edible crops and combining them or arranging them in an artistic manner in a garden, doing away with the conventional planting design pattern. So by incorporating the elements and principles of design in planting your edible garden. So this is what edible landscaping is. It's the combination of the science and the art of crop production. So edible landscaping is something that is suitable or safe to eat. So let's make it edible. And landscaping is using or arranging the land where you're going to plant these edible plants in an artistic way in a specific area. It can be big, it can be small, it can be a nook in your household area, and or even you can put it in containers if you don't have a land space to plant edible plants. So kahit po saan pwede, basta lalagyan natin ng art yung to make the landscape very interesting. So ang history po, the history of edible landscaping started way back in 1999 when the late Dr. Leonido Naranja introduced this concept as an urban horticulture concept. And later, this was the wife of the former Laguna Governor Joey Lina, I think noticed this technology and adopted this technology under the program of then Governor Lina, which is the Faith Garden, or Food Always in the Home, was launched in the provincial capital of Laguna. And since then, in 2009, 10 years later, the DA Bar supported our program since then. So we were continuing to promote this technology since 2009 with the help of the Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Agricultural Research. Okay. So, in edible landscaping, we use, of course, edible plants. But sometimes we can allow the use of certain ornamental plants to add color and texture to the landscape. So technically, we can do at 80% edible plants and 20% ornamental plants. If you can do if you can do the 100% edible plant garden design, you can incorporate it with ornamental plants, but at 20% only, so that it would be classified as an edible landscape. So we use vegetables, we use fruits like pineapple and calamansi. Okay. We can use medicinal plants and herbs to the landscape. You can, if you want to plant strawberries, you can. If you want to plant corn, you can. So it's like depending on the size of your garden and the needs of the household. Usually, edible garden is a concept that we want to replace ornamental plants in the household level and replace it with edible plants in order for them to have some source of food within reach of the household occupants. So they know that it is safe and healthy to eat because they have grown the plants by themselves. So what are the goals of edible landscaping? There are 4. Of course, you have aesthetics, yung kagandahan, functionality, kapakinabangan, health and wellness, kalusugan, and of course, self-sufficiency or kasapatan. These are the main goals that the edible landscaping project wants to achieve. Of course, let's discuss each one of them. First, of course, aesthetics, kagandahan. Kailangan po maganda po yung design natin para kaakit-akit po tingnan yung garden. So dito namin tinuturo yung elements and principles of design when doing the actual design layout of the garden or planting plan of the garden. We combine the different elements and principles of design like color, texture, balance, harmony, etc. in order to make the garden interesting. Pag maganda po kasi ang garden, mas nakakagana pong alagaan yung garden at mag-establish po ng isang magandang gardening endeavor sa ating bahay. So as you can see, pwede pong malaking bahay ay puro edible plants ang tinatanim, o may maliit kayong bahay na may maliit na konting lupa to spare to plant it with edible plants. So dito po sa photo na to, pinakita namin, even though maganda yung bahay, moderno, pwede pong malagyan ng isang magandang landscape design ang landscape area nitong bahay na to with edible plants. So it's a combination ng mga halaman po na para gumanda po yung garden natin. So in any space po ng bahay, malaki, maliit, medium, large, pwede po matamnan po ng edible landscape. Of course, second is functionality. So hindi lang po hindi ko ina-encourage din po ng edible landscaping project is na hindi lang puro halaman po yung nakalagay sa garden nyo. Pwede po kayong maglagay ng mga recreational spaces, parang yung mga gazebo, yung mga benches, okay, may waterfalls pa, to create a space for relaxation. And depending on the needs and desire of the owners of the garden. So we can use such concepts, and we can put different types of hardscapes within the edible landscape garden to make it conform to the needs of the user. So technically, it's a landscape garden, but it's all planted with edible plants. Okay. So health and wellness. So actually, ito po yung gustong i-hit ng edible landscaping project from the start, na to increase the health and wellness of the Filipino population. Kasi data would show that the daily intake of 400 grams needed by each individual is not being reached across social status, from poorest to the rich, and across age group, from 6 months to our elderly, 60 years old and older. As you can see in the graph that we prepared, coming from the Department of Science, Food and Nutrition Research Institute, this data is still significant or relevant, as FNRI have informed us, that the poor only has 116 gram per capita daily dietary input, as compared to the richest, which only take in yung vegetables natin at 114. So technically, we're a meat-eating country. So as we all know that eating healthy, safe, nutritious vegetables is good for our health because of the dietary input brought about by these vegetables. Kaya ito po yung isa naming talagang gustong ma-promote yung edible landscaping, so that our inputs on our dietary, that 400 grams, be reached or even surpassed in the future. So ito po yung ating kailangan ma-achieve po. Of course, self-sufficiency. So technically, the edible landscaping program has the potential to address self-sufficiency at the household level. As you can see in these photos, our cooperators through the years have harvested their produce in their home or community edible landscaping farms. So kasi there's several layers po ng edible later or types. You have your household, you have your institutional, you have your community level edible landscaping gardens. So these are examples of photos when the operators or the adapters of the edible landscaping technology, as you can see, they have very happy faces when they're harvesting. Actually, harvesting is the happiest portion of the crop production process, wherein you reap the rewards of what you have sown and taken care of. Ito yung mga prutas na ha-harvest po natin. Isang masaya pong activity po yan. So, EL has the potential to solve the food self-sufficiency at the household level. Especially po ngayong pandemya, na may challenge po tayo na how to buy these necessary ingredients in the daily food intake po natin. So if we can grow our own crops in the household, we have a stable or sustainable source of food in our household. Na you don't need to go to the market to buy these basic vegetables that are needed for the daily dietary intake of your family. So kung lumalaki na po yan sa ating mga bahay, doon nyo na lang ha-harvestin. Alam nyo pa, safe siya kasi alam nyo yung nilagay nyong input, puro organic fertilizer lang at organic pesticide lang ginamit nyo. Eh, alam nyo safe kainin po yung mga vegetables na na-produce doon sa garden nyo, sa inyong bakuran. So, yun po yung konsepto ng self-sufficiency natin. So, let's now move on to the components of edible landscaping. So, there are two components, major components of edible landscaping. So, ang una po ay softscape. Ang pangalawa po ay hardscape. So, ano ba po ang softscapes? So, softscapes are the living components of the landscape. So, ito po yung mga halaman. Ito yung mga edible plants natin. These are the edible trees, shrubs, herbs, herbaceous plant, etc. Dito po pumapasok yung science natin. Science can also go to the hardscape on the preparation of the different support mechanism for the growth and development of plants. But hardscapes are the non-living component of the landscape. So these are characteristically motile, non-motile, or non-motile, which aids in achieving the function of or the functionality of the space that you want to create. So dito papasok po yung mga iba-ibang hardscape elements na you want to know, mga trellis, yung mga pots, yung paving material, stepping stones, or whatever in the landscape, or even statues, okay, are part of the hardscapes that you know. The important thing is you know how to design and mix both softscape and hardscape in an artistic, harmonious manner po. So later we're going to discuss po what do I mean a harmonious, beautiful harmonious edible garden landscape. So let's discuss first what softscapes are. So technically, softscapes are your ground cover. Technically, these ground covers are ang una naisip natin are usually used to protect the soil from rainfall and avoiding erosion. Okay? Usually, ito yung mga Bermuda grass, zoysia grasses or your bluegrass, your Carabao grass, your seashore paspalum turf grass, if you're in a silent condition. So, but ground covers can also be taller than your turf grass. You can use your kamote, you can use your lettuce for that matter to cover the soil in order to protect it from erosion. So these are your ground cover plants. This is usually smaller than a shrub that protects the ground from heavy rainfall and to avoid erosion. So ang edging naman are plants that are used to are usually planted on edge of the pathways or planting area. So this usually creates an effect of following in one straight line po, a direction going to a certain space in the garden. So edgings are usually planted along pathways. So barriers, screens, and hedge usually are are plants that protects or prevents from someone from to protect your area from eaves droppers, or so you can use it as some sort of a screen. So it's kind of you can use it as to for the privacy of your garden. Kung ayaw nyo makita po yung kapitbahay nyo, lagyan nyo po ng barrier or screen. Ang rule of thumb po, pag yung kinatakatayuan nyo po doon sa garden, pag nakikita nyo yung bintana ng kapitbahay nyo, ibig sabihin doon, kita niya, ikaw rin. So kung ayaw nyo siya makita, lagyan nyo po ng barrier or screen na wala pong line of sight yung bintana no kapitbahay niyo po. So if you want some sort of privacy, you can use this barrier, screen, and hedge. Of course, foundation planting are plants that you use in order for a smooth transition from your building down to your lawn area. So there's some sort of plants should be planted along the periphery of the house in order for it to have a smooth transition from the building line or your house perimeter to the lawn and the garden. So this is what we call foundation planting. And of course, if you want to have some focal point or accent in the garden, you need to put bright colored flowering plants in the area. There should be some sort of a focal point in the garden wherein you can use different ornamental plants or edible plants in the garden. So some time you can use roses to have that focal point, and sometimes because petals of roses are edible if you dip it in chocolate, so it can be an edible plant, these roses. But in this photo, as an example of focal point and axis, these are in our edible landscaping demo garden area, the ornamental crops nursery at the University of the Philippines Los Baños campus. Ito po bougainvillea po na pinili namin na itanim kasi because of its bright red color during summers. So as you can see, it's blooming right now, and it creates a focal point at the center of the garden. So a focal point or accent in a garden is very important po, so that the garden would create interest from the public if you want to create an institutional edible landscaping garden. This is usually done in big garden areas po. So ano pa ho ba yung hardscapes? Kagaya po nito mga stepping stones na ginagamit as walkway. So you can use this kind of stepping material. Actually, this has been done by our students in landscape horticulture, wherein they mix their own concrete, then they put different leaves in order for it to have it imprinted in the concrete stepping stones that you want to create, and they just painted it with color green to highlight the imprint of the leaves that they have placed in that concrete pavement when creating the concrete pavement. You can also use pebbles. As you can see on the other side, you can use wood trunks cut in a round portion, okay, as paving materials, as hardscape. So you can also use spots. In order to have interest in these spots, you can color it or create images to make your garden interesting. You can also even use your old shoes as yung sapatos natin, pwede natin tamnan kung sira na po, tamnan natin ang vegetable and color it with different interesting colors and design and place it in your edible landscape. Okay, you can also use lights so that your edible garden can be appreciated during nighttime. Of course, you can also install different waterfall design in your garden. You can put a pond, so as a source of, you can use the pond as reservoir during rainy season to collect excess water coming from the roofs, and you can use it to irrigate your edible garden. You can also use trellis as a hardscape. This is where you can color it with different colors to create interesting, dynamic place. And this is where you can grow your ampalaya, your cucumber as an overhead trellis. And of course, you can put different signages or design similar to the signage installed at the DA Bar Edible Landscaping Demo Garden at their headquarters at Visayas Avenue. So it's the possibility is unending if you want to be creative and to make your edible garden very interesting. So let's move. So technically, I want to introduce to you your edible landscaping triangle. Okay, of course, there are three main components in order to make your edible landscape garden successful. Of course, you should have a good design. So a good design means that you follow all the principles and elements in design. And of course, you know the growth and development characteristic of each edible plants you will use in the edible landscape garden you're going to create. Of course, the next stage is you need to have a good implementation of the design that you have created. So on the design, you will have your planting plan. So during implementation stage, the people that are implementing the design plan of that edible landscape should know how to plant these different edible vegetables, herbs, or shrubs, or trees, or fruiting shrubs for that matter. So technically, the people doing the implementation of both the hardscape and the softscape should be a technical person that understands the requirement of the edible plant in relation to the hardscape that they're going to install. So there is a thin line, or there should be an integration of both the science on how the plant grows, or what are the requirements of that plant in relation to the hardscape that you will install in that edible landscape garden. Okay, edible garden for that matter. And of course, once it has been successfully implemented, you want sustainability. So you need to have proper and effective maintenance. Okay. So in short, you need to have some sort of a maintenance program, in a sense, especially in an edible garden or edible landscape, to maintain this edible landscape, primarily because when you harvest the plant or the vegetable like petchay or lettuce, you need to replace it. So that's where your maintenance comes in. You need to know how to propagate or to germinate these different seedlings, these annual seedlings, yung petchay, mustard, lettuce nyo, in a greenhouse. Then you should have the proper timing of staggered harvesting. Okay? so that the availability of these vegetables are available every day if you need to use it. So you need to have some sort of a greenhouse where when you harvest these vegetables, these annuals, you can now replace these leafy vegetables dun sa pinag-harvestan nyo, where you harvest it. And it will grow again, then you will harvest it in another time. So technically, it has to have some sort of maintenance, not only for water, weeding, or pest control. So that is critical po also yung replacement of the harvested planting material. Later po, di-discuss po natin yung different maintenance practices that is needed to maintain an edible landscape garden. So let's go to design phase. So in a design phase, you have we'll discuss two components of this design: the elements of design and the principles of design. So first, we discuss the elements of design. So this is part of the design phase. So I don't know that if we're going thoroughly on the design process, but when we're doing our activity we usually do hands-on on creating their own design. But I think for the purpose of this webinar, I'm just going to discuss to you what are the elements of designs and what are the principles of design that you can use in preparing your planting plan or design of your edible garden in your house, in your home. So first element of design is form. Okay, color, line, and texture. So what is form? So technically, ano po yung itsura po ng halaman? Is it appearance niya is upright, spreading, just like a lettuce? I think this is a lemongrass, yung upright. And of course, you can have a rounded appearance of plants, just like your cabbage. So these are examples of form and the elements of design. So now color, on the other hand, is of course in degree. Usually red is the most attractive, bright color that attracts your eyes. Just like, for instance, this lettuce, this is a red lettuce. You have your green lettuce or at the middle of color. As you can see at the middle, ito pong gabi, usually yung traditional or your native gabi is really dark green in color. But this one is more on the yellowish lemon green color of gabi. And you can plant this to create contrast. Pwede nyo itabi po yan sa native gabi, which is a little bit bigger and darker green in color to create some sort of contrast in the garden. But of course, at the other side, this is not your regular calamansi. This is your variegated calamansi. So because of the variegated color of the leaves and even the fruits. So you create interest with the use of colors of these different plant varieties. Usually po, nabibili po natin yung mga seeds na yan or available seeds yan when we buy those seeds from seed companies who do hybrid seeds. So they play with the different color of the plants. So when they breed them, of course, I don't know exactly the nutritional characteristic of those hybrid seed compared to our traditional native varieties. So of course, another element is line. Meron po tayong line na diretso. Pag kinurba po, if we make the line wavy, it's now a curve. So you can use line in a very dramatic way, like this jagged line at the right photo, okay? Or very smooth, wavy line along this pathway. Usually, wavy lines are used along waterfronts like lakes and oceans. So to mimic the wave motion of the water. So technically, ang ating mga railings along the shores or along this are placed in a wavy area. Okay, so we can use lines in a different manner. If you want to have a subtle movement, you use wavy lines. If you want to create interest and or shocking effect, you can use jagged lines with the use of straight lines. Of course, texture po. Dalawa po ang texture, isang smooth, isang rough. Isang pino at isang magaspang. As you can see, using this lemongrass, parang smooth po ang kanyang texture. Kasi it is thin and wavy. As you can see in the lettuce, technically, it is very rough in appearance. Parang malalaki po yung dahon at medyo hindi po smooth yung edge. Parang jagged po yung edge ng lettuce. So we can combine smooth and rough to create contrast also in the landscape. Beside color, you can use texture as to create contrast in the landscape. So let's now go to the principles of design. So ano ba ho yung mga principles of design? Ito po ay balance, contrast, scale and proportion, emphasis, and harmony. So these are the 5 main principles of design. So let's discuss them one by one po. So una natin, balance. So sa balance po, meron 3 klaseng balance. Okay? First po is yung formal or symmetrical balance. So ibig sabihin po ng formal at symmetrical balance, pag hinati niyo po yung canvas or yung landscape area at the middle, similar to this diagram and this photo. So when you divide it into one half, what you see at the right, you see at the left. So technically, it's very formal. So, but it creates some sort of parang monotony in a sense na madali po siyang gawin, pero sometimes pag too much ang formal balance natin, nawawala na po ng interest ang garden. So usually, ang nilalagyan po ng formal balance is along the entryway of your house. Kasi pwede pong mag-create tayo ng formal balance in any entrance of our home. So kung ano nakikita natin sa kanan, yun ang nakikita natin sa kaliwa. Similar to this photograph. When you cut it into half, kung ilan paso yan nakikita nyo sa kanan, yun rin ang paso ang makikita nyo sa kaliwa. Okay. Yan po ang tawag natin symmetrical or formal balance. The next type of balance which is a little bit complicated to achieve, is what we call, where's our, okay, sorry, before we go there, part of another formal balance is your radial balance. Okay, so radial balance is like a spoke of a wheel. Okay, yung sa kalesa. So yung center point nyo is that middle portion, and anything around it is equal in distance. It's not oblong, it's what we call radial balance. Ito pong nakikita natin. So the next diagram would be your informal or asymmetrical balance, which is directly in contrast with your formal balance. So this is much, this is more difficult to achieve, kasi you deal on the weight of the plants that you're going to plant to create that balance. As you can see, the center point of this garden is here, okay, this one. So technically, what you see at the left is not, at the right is not the same as what is on the left. So, but there's a feeling of balance in this design. So creating this would entail you a degree of sensitivity on what type of plant you can plant at equal weights at the center point. So this is what you call informal or asymmetrical balance. So in contrast with symmetrical balance or formal balance, so what you see at the left, you don't see at the right. Now let's go to the second principle, which is contrast. So contrast can be achieved by determining the degree of difference. So the degree of difference can be, we can use color, okay? As in the lettuce, we have a red and we have a green lettuce, okay? So that creates contrast. So, but too much contrast is not good. So later I'll discuss why. Okay. So as you can see, you can also use texture. Okay. Here. Texture. So you have big round leaves, just like your petchay, and you have your smooth textured herb plant here, it's rosemary. Okay. To create contrast in the garden. Okay. So you can use texture, you can use color to create that difference. Now, scale and proportion. So what is scale and proportion? So scale and proportion gives us a sensation of the bigness and smallness within the space. So as you can see in this diagram, the trellis is properly scaled, okay, and proportional to the height of the people that going to use this. It's not too high, it's not too low, it's just right. So one good example usually I give to my students in landscape horticulture in relation to scale and proportion is if you have a 300 to 400 square meter lot, house and lot. Naturally, if you're going to choose a tree to plant in that garden, your garden, you will not choose an acacia tree because your acacia tree will be as big as your house and it will be out of scale in your lot. So what you're going to use is a small tree in order for it to be proportional to the lot size and house size or how big your house is. So this is the concept of scale and proportion. Okay. So everything should be at a proper scale, at a proper proportion when you're doing a design, especially when you're installing a hardscape material in your garden. Okay. But sometimes some designer can use scale and proportion to create interest. But this is a totally different topic. But we're just going to do simple principles of design. So, ito po yung importansya po. Tama po dapat ang scale. So, emphasis provides accent and focalization. This is what we did during our demo during the DA Bar Science at the SM Mega Mall during that time. So the focal point is the gazebo. So in order to create interest in the gazebo, we put red-colored bulbs to create that red color. Okay. Or dancing light at the middle, changing to red, blue, white, green. So to create that contrast, in order for people to go in the garden exhibit of the edible landscaping garden installed in SM Mega Mall. The one at the right photo is the one we did in South Korea for our edible landscaping exhibit. So what we did was to bring the keeping from Quezon, from Philippines to South Korea, and we created this center piece to create interest or a focal point in our edible landscaping. All of the plants here has edible use. This is sponsored by the Flower Tea Association of South Korea. So this association discovers different types of flowers and they dry it, and those flowers are used as material for tea. Okay, your tea. So flower tea. So So technically, after all the discussions of your design elements and your principles of design, the garden or the design that you have created must have harmony, because it should have a pleasing relationship between the different parts of design, both softscape and hardscape component. So technically, this softscape and this hardscape should be one or part of a whole. So in order to create harmony, the elements of design and principles of design should be applied cohesively. So if we don't follow the principles of design and principles of design, you will end up with a design that we call chop suey. So ibig sabihin po halo-halo, wala pong direction or plano. The garden design will become chaotic. So para pong halo-halo. So kaya tinawag po nating edible landscaping, kailangan po may sense of order to make it interesting and creative po. Hindi po halo-halo yung design. There's some sort of order in the design po, to make it interesting. So yun po yung tinatawag nating harmony. As you can see in this our demo farms, we have herbs, we have shrubs. Okay, we have pineapples here. We have kamote at the different color, the yellow one and the red one. Okay, we have chaang gubat. Okay, which are now formed as a spiral. Okay, it's endless if you follow the principles and elements of design. So, what are the design tips? Oops. So, one of the major design tips are we need to be careful in using too many colors, textures, and form. So, because if we do that, we create what we call chop suey effects. Yung halo-halo po siya. Hindi po maganda po yung chop suey. Yung effect ng garden design po natin. Second po, sorry. As the contrast becomes higher, it tends to give a chaotic effect. So playing with contrast too much will create a chaotic effect kasi too drastic yung change po no. If it's color too drastic po, medyo masakit na po sa mata, tingnan po yung garden. So too much contrast tends to give a chaotic effect. And however, pag wala naman contrast po yung garden nyo, napaka-boring. Hindi po interesting tingnan. So kailangan tama lang po yung balance ng contrast in terms of texture and in terms of color in creating that kind of contrast. So tapos na po tayo sa design phase. So we now move to the implementation phase. So technically, the implementation phase are usually implemented by people who are skilled. Okay? Yung hindi po lang po yung nag-i-implement nito parang laborer lang, yung naghahalo ng semento. Hindi po. Ang mga ginagamit po nating tao dito taong nakakaintindi kung paano po itanim ng tama yung mga halaman at marunong rin pong bumasa ng plano nung nag-design kung paano niya itatanim po yung halaman dun sa garden. At alam po rin itong taong to kung paano i-install ang mga hardscape without damaging po yung existing plants in the garden. Or paano niya i-combine yung hardscape and softscape together. So technically po, ang mga taong nasa landscape industry or yung technical laborer that I want to call them are knowledgeable in the science of the plant, basic science of plants, and can read the simple garden design when they are implementing the design that you have created or done and to be established in the garden. Marunong po silang magbasa ng metro and put it on the garden po. Okay. So, unang stage po ng implementation phase po, sinasabi ko noon, kung ito po lang small version po ng implementation phase. So itong dinidiscuss ko po sa inyo is usually done in one semester. One semester po ang aming ginugugol dito sa paggawa nitong mga design, implementation at maintenance phase sa aming isang kurso. So ito ini-introduce ko po sa inyo in an hour or more on this webinar. So, ang una pong stage is site clearing. So, tatanggalin niyo po yung mga unwanted vegetative material at kung saan niyo itatanim po yung halaman. So, ito, ginagawa po ng aming tao is tinatanggal po yung damo at pine-prepare po yung site. So, technically, nung na-prepare na po yung site, after site clearing, nile-layout na po nila yung mga halaman na kung saan itatanim sa pinirepair na site. So, hindi pa siya tinatanim, nilalagay lang po siya yung mga paso in layout for to check kung tama po ang then they will check kung tama po yung paglagay nila dun sa planong ginawa during the design phase. So, after layouting, of course, tama po, tatanim po nila. Then you can now install your hardscape. And you can do now your planting. Okay. So, let's discuss in detail po kung ano yung site clearing. Okay. So site clearing is technically removing all the debris that is unwanted in the site. So in order for you to prepare the site for planting, this is the first stage in the preparation of the site. You can also remove unwanted trees or dying trees for that matter. And you need now to cultivate the area for planting, removing all unwanted vegetation in the planting area. Okay. So you can use either a shovel, as you can see in this, by using manually. You can use also a rotavator to prepare the land. So a mechanized rotavator to prepare it. This is a walk-behind rotavator you can use. Okay. In laying out, of course, after the area has been prepared, okay, you see now how we planted the kamote, the red leaf kamote and the yellow-green leaf kamote. So we placed plastic straws and measured them in the right scale and dimension. Then we plant alternately in jagged form or in triangular form the red and yellow tomato, kamote, sorry, red and yellow kamote. So similar to this garden. So we lay out the shape of the planting area, separating the different planting areas as being followed in the design of the garden. Of course, before we do the actual planting, it is wise that you install first or construct first the hardscape. So hardscape construction comes first prior to the landscape operation. Okay. So as you can see, they prepared a walkway and a trellis or a gazebo. And all this soil area are where the edible plants will be planted. So planting, of course, you need to have seeds, okay, that you will germinate in this planting tray. Okay. So when you have the different vegetables that are already grown, you can buy hybrid seeds. I believe these are from Kaneko Seed Company. Of course, we also source our seeds organically from organic seed producers. Okay, so this is what we usually pack in our starter kit. It's organically produced vegetable seeds, traditional seeds. So we don't use on our starter kits hybrid seed, but you can use hybrid seeds for your mat. So if you want a different kind of variety of vegetables like tomato, apalaya, eggplant, okay, or radish for that matter. So in planting, you have these basic tools: your trowel, your fork, and your water container. Okay. So of course, you can use your hose attached to a faucet, okay, in watering. So it's very critical that you have a source of water in your garden, because if you don't have a sustainable source of water, your plants will die. You need to maintain them. If there's no rainfall, you need to alleviate or water them manually. So in planting, you need to prepare your soil media, especially when you're germinating the seeds. Your soil media, for that matter, should be sterilized. Okay. So you can soil treatment to control soil-borne pathogens and weeds. I think this is soil sterilization for that matter. Okay. Apologies for my spelling. Okay. Okay. Solarization, in a sense, is part of the soil sterilization process, wherein you expose it to sunlight. Okay, to sterilize it. But usually there are different types of sterilization. You're using heat and steam, and you can use chemical method using formaldehyde. The importance of soil sterilization when you're using soil in germinating these hybrid seeds or vegetable seeds, because is to protect them from infestation of insect pests and pathogenic pests. Because the seeds are so small, they are very prone to insect infestation and pathogenic infestation. So you need to have soil sterilized in order for in sterilizing the soil. But the edible landscaping program uses heat or natural means and through as part of soil sterilization process. Okay, so it's a natural means. So we don't use chemical method of soil sterilization. So we just technically ginagawa po namin, may malaki kubing kawa. We put water, boiled it, and put the soil mix inside, then we have it steamed then for several hours, and we cool it down, and we use this sterilized soil mixture, put it in their seedling tray, and that's where we sow the seeds for germination. So technically. Okay, soil steam sterilization, using steam. Okay. Now sowing the seeds. So once the soil has been sterilized, okay, we sow the seeds at different with the planting tray. Okay. Once the seedlings has germinated and grown up to the right size, we transplant them to field condition after preparing them for transplanting. So we need to do hardening off before we plant it into field condition, primarily to prevent the plants from transplanting shock. So kailangan na po siya sturdy. So we gradually reduce the amount of water being supplied to the seedlings to prepare them to have less water in field condition. And of course, to expose them slowly to sunlight to make their tissues a little harder. This is all done to reduce transplanting shock. So by doing gradual withdrawal of water and gradual exposure to direct sunlight. Ang tawag po doon is hardening of vegetable seedlings. So after hardening, okay, you now transplant the vegetable seedlings and you water them in order for it to get established. So now we go to the third phase of the edible landscaping triangle, which is the maintenance phase. So what are the different maintenance operations? Of course, the first one is watering, pruning or trimming, pest management, harvesting, nutrient management. Pag nutrient management po, ano po kung klaseng mga fertilizer ang inalagay natin? Is it yung organic natin, which is your compost or vermicompost, or your I'm not saying you don't use chemical fertilizer, but we encourage you to use organically produced soil amelioration nutrient material. So let's start with watering. So importante po ang watering kasi po kung wala pong tubig, hindi po lalaki ang halaman. Kaya I always say in agriculture po, water is an essential component in agricultural crop production. So without water, there will be no agriculture. And hence po, a sustainable source of water in your garden is critical. So if wala po kayong stable source of water, we can also, the edible landscaping also teaches you on how in different practical methods of rainwater harvesting. So you harvest yung ulan po and put it in containers. Usually ito po yung mga drum where nakasahod po dun sa alulod ng roof ng bahay. So these are very sustainable sources of water. Libre pa po. Of course, you need to prune or trim the plants. Pag excessive na po, ay kailangan nyo i-prune para po rin to encourage new growth yung sa halaman. So you need some sort of pruning and trimming. So yung talbos ng kamote, sometimes you get that. Then yung mga humahabang matatanda, kailangan yung putulin para ma-encourage po lumaki ulit yung lateral growth, magkaroon ng bagong shoots para makaharvest kayo ng mga bagong talbos ng kamote. Of course, ang gubat, you need to prune them kasi minsan po lumalaki po na. You can shape them in square, round, or any shape so that it would encourage to grow new shoots that you can harvest in the future. So importante po yan, pruning or trimming. So sa pest management naman po, you can use biocontrol agents by using parasitoids. Okay, like yung wasp, yung Trichogramma oryntringe. Okay, you can use also natural predators like this ladybug or your stink bug for that matter to control insect pests of vegetables. Okay, or you can use botanical concoctions in pest management. So this is your oriental herb nutrient wherein yung ingredients nyo ipaghahalu-haluin nyo, yung ginger, garlic, onion, okay, lahat ng matatapang, miski ano po, yung sili, pwede nyo ilagay. Mas mataas na scoville units, mas maganda po. Pag scoville units yun, mas mataas po, mas maanghang. So technically, pwede nyo ihalo po yan dyan. So ang ingredients po ito, that you need to have some materials like your container where you mix together the ginger, garlic, onion. Okay. So technically, ang purpose po dito botanical concoction is to provide more vigor and vitality to plants and acts as a fungicide and a pesticide. So meron po yan na mga ways of concocting these botanical concoctions. You go sa YouTube, marami kayong makikita po. This botanical concoction. These are natural. This is using natural material. Okay? So to control. Then isasala nyo po yan. Then ang kanyang concentration is 2 tablespoons per 1 liter of H2O. Yun ang ihahalo nyo. Then isi-spray nyo using your hand sprayer. Or if it's a big area, you can use your knapsack sprayer. So it's about 20 liters by isang knapsack sprayer. So 20 times 2, you need to have 40 tablespoons. So you can convert that into milliliter. Ilan ba yung 20 tablespoons? Okay. That you can use as botanical concoction po. So usually hinahalo-halo yan. Then sinasala, then ginagamit po yung nasalang juice as your botanical concoction pesticide. So now, next is nutrient management. Example of these are your botanical concoctions, your IMO, indigenous microorganism, FPJ, hindi po yan Fernando po Jr., ito po ay fermented plant juice, at yung FFJ, your fermented fruit juice. So you can also see this, how to prepare this in detail in YouTube, or you can just Google it, and you will see how these are in detail prepared. But I'm just going to introduce to you this botanical concoction that you can use for nutrient management. Ito po yung pagdagdag ng nutrient po. So yung IMO po is your indigenous microorganisms. So ang ginagamit po natin dito yung rice. Okay? Usually nilalagay po yan sa ceramic container or sa wooden box container. Sa tabi po usually ang recommended po sa may bamboo that you can get yung microorganism. So yung rice po ay iiwanan doon sa container, iiwanan nyo for 1 week or so sa hanggang makakuha po ng microorganism. Okay? So usually 1 kilogram of rice is equal to 1 kilogram of sugar. So this technically serves as food for yung brown sugar po, kasi recommended po yung molasses. Hindi po tayo nakakuha ng molasses readily from the market. So we try to substitute it with brown sugar. Okay. So we put brown sugar, then the microorganism multiplies. Now you mix it in a container, then you strain it. You strain the juice together with the microorganism. 2 tablespoons per liter, you spray it to this as a soil conditioner. So another botanical concoction for nutrient management is FPJ, fermented plant juice. You use the shoots of kakwate, banana, kamote, usually with higher nitrogen content. Okay. So you mix them together. You mix them together. Okay. Technically, you ferment this juice for a week, then you strain it. Then you use it at 2 tablespoons per 1 liter of H2O. And of course, the last one is FFJ, your fermented fruit juice. So you can use different types of fruits. So this is a good source of potassium to maintain vigor in plants and resistance against pests, and it improves soil fertility. So technically, same process, you mix it, you ferment it, then after a week, you harvest the juice, put it in your cloth strainer, then you use it at 2 tablespoons per liter of H2 and spray it on the soil. So this is your usual introducing you to organic ways of nutrient management. Of course, as part of the special practice, I'll introduce to you your composting and vermiculture later, okay, as part of this nutrient management practices. So in harvesting, we promote staggered harvesting, meaning we don't harvest everything all at once. So we only harvest what is needed. for the household needs per day basis, so that you only harvest what is needed in the household, so that the edible landscape garden will not be wiped out of edible plants. So technically, as part of the staggered harvesting protocol, we do also staggered planting, which means we plant same crops at different stages. So we plant eggplant at different every other week, so that we have this producing eggplant not that will not mature at the same time. So that is very important po. So you need to have a graph or a table where you know when this batch of vegetable plant has been planted or vegetable patch has been planted in relation to the next batch of vegetable. So that the maturity date or the maturity time for this vegetable crop will be different. So you will have sustainable source of like tomatoes or eggplant throughout the year if you have you practice staggered harvesting and staggered planting for that matter. Of course, as part of our maintenance and pest management practice, we do bagging. So we protect the fruits from insect pests by doing bagging. Okay. So as part of the special practices, where we set up our nursery where we grow the next generation of vegetables that will be planted to our edible garden, and we also use vermicompost or vermicast to incorporate it in the soil. Vermicompost is important primarily to we use all the weeds that we harvest and we feed them to the this African night crawler earthworms that we have, and sometimes we directly compost all vegetative residue that we collect in the garden, and later after it has decomposed, we incorporate it when we're preparing the soil where the new set of vegetable crops will be planted. So it would be thoroughly mixed and to improve the soil structure of the soil. Okay. So in order to have a good, to create a sustainable edible landscape garden, or to create an edible landscaping garden, you need to have the design, implementation, and maintenance phase done correctly. Okay, so I want to share with you the tagline of the edible landscaping team from the start, that no Filipino should be hungry. Kaya po nating mag-survive even at this pandemic pag sama-sama po tayong magtanim ng ating gulay or edible plants sa ating mga bakuran. So if we all Filipino household will plant at their home, there would be a sustainable source of safe and nutritious vegetable or edible crops in our own home. Kaya po, hindi po dapat magutom ang ating mga kababayan if we can learn how to plant our own food in our own household. So you can follow us in our Facebook page, Edible Landscaping UPLB. We have also an Instagram being managed by the team, edible underscore landscaping underscore UPLB. And we have our email if you want to ask questions at ediblelandscaping.upl.edu.ph. So, of course, before we end, of course, I want to thank all our supporters in our program throughout the years. Of course, special mention to Dr. Vivencio R. Mamaril, who is currently the Director of the Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Agricultural Research, or DAFR, for funding our projects and supporting us throughout the years and encouraging us to continually promote this technology in our country. And of course, Dr. Enrico Pisopanco, Executive Director and former Dean of the College of Agriculture and Food Science, for their valuable support for our project. Of course, our Institute Director, Dr. Consortia Riaño of the Institute of Crop Science, College of Agriculture and Food Science. And to all the people who in a way made a significant contribution and support for our project. So marami pong salamat po. Tapos na po ang ating lecture po or webinar.
So sir, maraming salamat po sa napaka-interesting and informative na discussion. Marami po talagang natuwa sa ating viewers. And tama po naman po ang sinabi ninyo na ang EL is a combination of science and art, wherein masustansya na, maganda at relaxing pa siya sa mata. So sabi nga ni sir, ang EL can also help promote yung increase ng pagkain ng gulay at self-sufficiency because no Filipino should be hungry. So before we proceed po sir sa Q&A, panoorin po muna natin ang video na hatid ng Edible Landscaping Team.
Okay.
Meron akong kantang ginawa para sa'yo. Handa ka na ba sa bawang konsepto? Bubusugin yung kaalaman gamit ang pagkakalaman. Mas ligtas na pagkain dahil tayo ang magtatanim. Edible landscaping, ito ang ating dapat gawin. Tara, sa labas ng ating bahay, lika, magtanim tayo ng gulay. Tara, lupa'y bigyan ng kulay, gawing kaakit-akit at ating bigyan ng buhay. Tayo'y magtanim, ito'y ating palakihin, lupa'y pagandahin, ani ay paramihin, huwag palampasin. Ito ay para sa atin, edible landscaping. Tara na't gawin. Anong gulay o prutas ang iyong gusto? Kangkong, patola, sibuyas, pandan, pinya, bayabas, patamatan na pwedeng kahit sino. Businessman, bambabatas, 8 pesa payatas, mas ligtas na pagkain dahil tayo ang magtatanim. labas ng ating bahay, lika magtanim tayo ng gulay, tara. Lupa'y bigyan ng kulay, gawing kaakit-akit at ating bigyan ng buhay. Tayo'y magtanim, ito'y ating palakihin. Lupa'y pagandahin, ani ay paramihin. Huwag kalampasin, ito ay para sa atin. Edible landscaping, tara. Sa labas ng ating bahay, lika magtanim tayo ng gulay, tara. Lupa'y bigyan ng kulay, gawing kaakit-akit at ating bigyan ng buhay. Tayo'y magtanim, ito'y ating palakihin. Lupa'y paggandahin, ani ay paramihin. Huwag palampasin, ito ay para sa atin. Edible landscaping, tara na't gawin, tara na't gawin.
Nakita po natin ang video ng edible landscaping. So at this point, magbabasa na po tayo ng questions na ating pong nakalap through our comment section and PM. So imbitahan po natin ulit si Dr. Fernando Sanchez Jr. para po sumagot sa inyong mga inquiries.
Thank
Yan.
you.
So sir, ito pong ating questions ay maaari pong na-discuss na po natin kanina, pero uulitin lang po natin or itatanong po natin ulit para po sa mga hindi nakahabol po doon sa part na po yun ng discussion. So ayun po. First question po, pwede po bang hardscape ang ilagay sa focal point?
Pwede naman, pwedeng ilagay. Tapos pwede nga yung statwa nyo, di ba? If you have a statue na sarili na to create personal interest in the garden. So any personal material that you can put there, pwedeng hardscape. So for that. Pero syempre, may softscape ka sa paligid nung focal point mo na hardscape. So that would complement ngayon yung softscape na bright colored plants or vegetables mo would complement now that center focal point in the garden. So halaman pa rin magdadala pero ang focal point mo yung naisip ko kagad statue kasi usually nilalagay. So pwede naman.
Okay po. Next question po. I really want to do edible landscaping in our place in Bulacan, but I don't have aesthetics in landscaping. So do you extend technical assistance when it comes to designs?
Yes, actually our team promotes usually naman hindi po on a personal one-on-one manner. Usually we do it, and of course the ABA encourage us to do it on a institutional or yung group or cooperative. So we do actual simple design process, yung how to do yung edible landscape design. Pwede po, our team is ready. We have a module on that. And actually, it's a 2-day module wherein we encourage them to participate. Actually, we have an in-house training this coming June 2 ba yun? June 20, sorry. June 20. So, yun ang schedule naming in-house training, actual in-house training on how to prepare an edible landscape design.
Okay. So sir, itong announcement po ng in-house training ay makikita naman po nila sa inyong FB page po?
Yes.
Okay po.
So technically, I'm sorry, more exactly, tumatanda na kasi ako eh. June 21 to 22 pala yung in-house. Is that,
it is a 2-day po, no, 2-day in-house training po. Apa.
Yes.
Okay, so may isa, ito po naman pong isa ay Nagtanong if can we combine all the different concepts of gardening, considering the principles and elements of design?
Yes, you need to consider all of them. But syempre, yung mga tips doon, huwag masyadong makontrast kasi it would create a chaotic effect. Tapos kung walang harmony, magiging chop suey. So hindi orderly packaging na. So technically, I would understand kaya hindi nila mag-grasp pa yung principles ng design, yung elements of design kasi in-introduce lang natin ngayong webinar. But during the in-house training, of course, we will allow them to prepare their own design. Sila magdo-drawing. Nung garden nila, kung anong gusto ng design. Then, kukomenta ng aming mga staff who are technically proficient on garden design. On to comment and to give them idea. Actually, sabi ko, syempre, practice makes perfect. So if you're doing it the first time, of course, yung confidence mo is not that much. But if you're going to do it every day, slowly, and learning to the process, you can be confident enough that you can do different design or you can help your neighbor or your friends to create their own edible landscape natin. Yun yung gusto natin sa DA Bar na ma-adapt. Hindi, kung ikaw na-train, pwede mo rin i-impart. You have that confidence to impart it to your friends or relatives. Yan ang importante para makaproduce sila ng kanilang food at their household center on food sustainability.
Yes po, that's right, sir. So, may nagtanong pa po, sir, is it required to be organic in edible landscaping?
Again, Elena,
is it required po to be organic in edible landscaping?
Yes, kasi from the start, we really promote organic way of producing vegetables. That's why it's safe, nutritious nga kami palagi. So, but technically, I want to have a disclaimer na hindi ko naman sinasabi unsafe pag ginamitan ng chemical. But we encourage, okay, that's the exact word, encourage, of course, the iba encourage the use of organic way of producing crops. So, yun po yung safe answer ko doon. Talagang we encourage the use of organic chemical or pest control and nutrient management. So,
okay po, sir. Pwede din po ba maglagay ng mga insect repellent na sa halaman malapit mismo sa mga gulayan namin to protect our garden from insects like oregano citronella?
Yes, definitely. You can use.
Ito po, sir, ay siguro po 4 na lang pong questions or 3 yung natitira. So, is it advisable po to do crop rotation to prevent pests and diseases?
Yes, that's one of the practice that we are doing technically to rotate the crop. So dapat nga lang, diba sabi ko kanina, you should have some sort of a plan on when to plant, what to plant, and in a staggered manner. So that's part of the sustainability aspect of the edible landscaping. Yeah.
Meron pong nagtanong, sir, if what are the most compatible types of plants for edible landscaping, as big plants may consume a lot of space and may cause lesser chance of success?
Marami kasi yung mga, of course, there are plants that can go together and plants that don't go together. So there's a big list. So to discuss it, sana meron ako dito late siguro in the next natin, i-discuss ko na yung in detail kasi pag I'll just say it, mahirapan silang magano. Definitely there are plants that can go together and plants that cannot be combined in a landscape design. So maybe if she or he can give his email, we can provide him with that list na ano ba yung mga halaman na pwede magkasama, hindi magkasama. Of course, yung malalaking puno, hindi namin i-encourage masyado. If it's in a corner of the garden, pwede po yun. Kasi it would compete with the necessary sunlight needed by the vegetables. So it depends on the location where you're going to plant or the type of pruning, maintenance pruning that you will do. So yun yun.
Okay po. So, please suggest po kung ano ang edible plants para sa urban areas na maliit ang lugar at kakaunti ang araw.
Ay, nako. Technically, okay, space muna tayo. Dalawa yung tanong niya yung space limitation and of course, sunlight limitation. So technically, majority of the plants na ginagamit natin for basic parang ingredients in the day-to-day na parang may vegetable tayo are sun-loving plants. So technically, una muna sa sa space. So pag wala po kayong space, pwede natin gawa yung layering na yung mga container, parang vertical garden. Pwede natin, may bakod tayo dyan, pwede natin isabit. Di ba na meron na yata tayo na bibili readily ngayon sa market, or if wala kayong budget for that, you can use yung mga container, lalagyan nyo ng kawat, kulayan nyo ng red, pink, may drawing to make it creative, hindi lang yung lata. So isasabit nyo sa tatamnan nyo ng pechay, mustard. So that would now answer yung limitation of space. You can do vertical gardening using containers.
Okay.
So yeah, pwede. Yung container naman, hindi naman kailangan bilhin. Importante po, hindi naman po shaded throughout the day kasi hindi lalaki po yung halaman. So, sana makahanap ng space o mag-create na space na magkaroon ng morning sunlight. At least may sunlight. Kasi kung walang sunlight po, alam niyo na, walang photosynthesis. Hindi efficient ng photosynthesis. Pag walang photosynthesis, alam mo yan. Ewan ko kung walang photosynthesis, walang product. So, hindi magde-develop yung crop. So, at least morning sunlight po yung meron tayo. Not naman throughout the day. Okay.
Okay, sir. Last question na po tayo. We're down to the last question po. And medyo technical po ito. Wala bang kailangang i-consider sa EL na allelopathy effect sa crops or veggies during the intercropping of plants at during sa design?
Meron dapat. Kaya nga yung knowledge nyo ng halaman, actually, we have a list already of plants. So technically, kailangan magkaroon ng companion planting in the design process to help each plant grow together. So we have those lists, and if that person would send us yung email, we can provide him on how to do this yung kanyang allelopathic effect on planting crops.
Sir, ano lang po sir, in relation to that question, para lang po mas ma-expound po natin at ma-simplify po yung technical term po doon. Ano po kaya in simplified terms yung allelopathy effect?
Ibig sabihin nun, magkaaway yung dalawang halaman na they're competing with each other's survival. So technically, hindi pwede magkasama sila kasi they would cancel off each other.
Okay,
so that's the most simplest way I can allelopathic effect on crop growth and development.
Okay, sir. So I think that is the last question po, sir. So, nabitin po ba kayo sa ating Q&A?
Okay lang.
Okay po.
But, we can do this again if you want to. We're going to improve the based on the questions raised, we can incorporate that in the discussion later. Especially yung allelopathic effect na yun.
Yes po.
Concern. So, pero it's very rare. Pero meron po mga halaman na nagka-cancel off because of the toxins that has being emitted by one of the plants.
Okay po, sir. Sir, maraming salamat po sa pagsagot ng katanungan ng ating mga viewers at sa pagbahagi po ng inyong mga kaalaman. So sir, thank you so much po at sana po maanyayahan po namin ulit kayo sa mga susunod po nating seminars. Thank you po, sir.
Okay, thank you. And regard to Director Mamalin.
Makakaabot po, sir. Thank you po.
Thank you, bye.
Okay po, so sa ating mga viewers, kung meron po kayong mga dagdag na katanungan po regarding edible landscaping, maaari nyo pong i-visit ang kanilang Facebook page. So, ayan po, naka-flash po sa ating screen ang FB page po na Edible Landscaping na pwede nyo i-message ng inyong mga questions na hindi namin nasagot during our open forum. Okay po. So sa ang ating pong next seminar ay ipopost din po sa ating DA Bar official FB page at huwag po kayo mag-alala dahil po itong ating seminar po ngayon ay i-upload po sa official FB page po ng DA Bar, sa website at sa YouTube account po ng FB Bar ng DA Bar, which is the DA Bar official. So ayan po. Together with the seminar, you can also view yung mga past and previous seminars na nakonduct po ng DA Bar sa same accounts po. So we have the Facebook page, the website, and the YouTube account. Ayan. So lastly po, for those requesting ng certificates, magpo-post po kami ng evaluation sa aming FB page at kailangan nyo po itong sagutan para maka-receive po ng certificate. So, muli po sa pamunuan ng Bureau of Agricultural Research, maraming salamat po sa inyong pagdalo. And we hope to see you again in our upcoming seminars. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat.